Okay, we'll start at part 2 with the first officer's flow. The oxygen test and set. There's a great video on AA pilots that shows you exactly how to do that. Smoke goggles, check. They'll be right here. Instrument source select panel set. You just want to see that everything's up and dark. 767 static source selector normal. That'd be right down here. It doesn't show it on this simulator. Clock. Verify set to UTC. Flight instruments. Check. Auto land status blank. This does have something there, but it would be blank typically. And then rudder pedals and seats adjusted.
We'll do the captain's flow here. Oxygen test and set. And smoke goggles, check. Instrument source select panel, up and dark. Static source selector normal, and flight instruments check. Auto land status and unseated blank, and rudder pedals and seats adjusted. Fueling is complete approximately 10 minutes prior to gate departure.
First officers would be ACARS updated. It doesn't show it on this simulator. Windows closed and locked, closed, and it'll say closed up here, and locked. And AML and flight forms reviewed on board.
And electrical power as required. The fuel panel set. Seatbelt selector on. AML reviewed, and windows closed and locked. And the captain will call for the before start checklist to the line.
Roger that. Before start checklist to the line, Captain. Park brake.
Set.
APU.
On.
Fuel.
We'll check right here. 29.8 pounds check and set.
767 cargo heat.
On.
Seatbelt selector.
On.
MCP.
Checked.
Oxygen.
Checked.
Checked. Flight instruments and bugs.
Checked.
ICAS.
Checked.
CDU.
Checked.
Fuel control switches.
Cut off.
Aileron and rudder trim.
0, 0.
ACARS.
Update it.
Departure briefing.
Complete it.
AML and flight forms.
Reviewed on board.
Reviewed on board. To the line.
After receiving the cabin ready report and all external doors are closed.
EFB PED set and off.
And the captain doors unseated are checked. Hydraulic panel set. Red anti-collision lights on. Flight deck door closed and locked. EFB PED set and off. Before start checklist below line.
Roger that. Below line, Captain. Hydraulic panel.
Set.
Doors and windows.
Closed and locked.
Red anti-collision lights. I'm sorry, closed and locked. Red anti-collision lights.
On.
Transponder.
Set.
Before start checklist complete. Okay, I've got it sitting out here on the runway just to expedite things, but I'd go ahead and call for push, get cleared to push, and once we get clearance to start the left engine, the captain will say.
Go ahead and start the left engine, please.
Okay, to start the left engine, we're going to turn the APU bleed off. Watch for the valve light on and then back off. Go ahead and turn the packs off. Go back down to the APU and turn it back on. We're going to go to the left starter. We'll go to ground. Watch for the valve light to come on. And go back out. Then we're looking for 21 PSI on the duct pressure for the 767. And I made a mistake here. This should be in engine. And you're looking for N1 to start rising, N2 to start rising, and then we have our oil pressure Looking for a N2 of 25%. We have that. We'll come down and introduce the fuel. Make sure the spar valve light comes on and then off. We'd start the timer. Watch the EGT. That actually got pretty hot there. That's a good start. And then you check for the valve light would come on and off.
Now let's go ahead and fire up the right engine.
Starting the right engine, same thing. We can leave this as is. And to ground. There's the valve light. It went out. Duct pressure looks good. Looking for a rise. N2. There's the oil pressure. And we've got more than 25. We'll introduce the fuel. This EGT's way hot. Started the time. There's the click, and I caught the valve light, and it went back out. Good start. And I was thinking the EGT was 570. This is the 767, so we weren't that hot actually. I believe 740 to 870 for 40 seconds is the EGT for the 767, so we were well within parameters. After I start, the first officer has a flow. I'll check my C pumps and would turn them on if I had fuel in the center tanks, which I don't. Check the engine anti-ice and wing anti-ice. We wouldn't turn the wing anti-ice on at this time on the ground, but we would turn engine anti-ice on if it was below 10 degrees Celsius with visible moisture outside, which obviously it isn't. You go to the packs and go ahead and turn those to auto. We'll turn the isolation switches off now. Now we can turn this switch back to status. And Captain will start her flows.
The APU as required, so we're going to go ahead and turn that off. Engine anti-ice switches, check. We don't need those right now. ICAS recall. And auto brake selector RTO and flight controls check. We're gonna wait for the first officer to do his flow now. Oh, I have to salute flap 15.
Once you hear the captain say set flaps either 5 or 15, go ahead and go flaps 15 in this case. We'll go transponder to TARA, and I'll say clear on the tops, and you can see right here, of course, is where the ailerons and rudders and elevators are. And then you'll see the captain check her.
I'm on the bottoms.
And then I would go back to engine. And run the after start checklist silently. And the silent checklist is anti-ice, ICAS recall, flight controls checked, and they are. Transponder is TARA. And then I would say after start checklist complete. And I'd call for taxi. We'd get cleared to taxi. I'd say clear right.
Clear left.
And as we're taxiing, once your load closeout comes up, we'll go ahead and ask the captain to go heads down to do the load closeout. Is that okay, Captain?
Yes.
Go to your index, performance, 0 fuel weight. In this case, it's 254.3. And then you would just read the load closeout to the captain. Captain, you ready for the load closeout?
Yes.
Security check okay, 219 souls on board, no restricted articles. Stab is 3.8. Would go ahead and set that. Actually, I would have set that as I was reading my load closeout. And we got a 0 fuel weight of 253.1, plan 280.4. That's these two numbers, obviously. Then on the paperwork, we have a planned takeoff weight of 285.5. We're below that. More importantly, we're below our assumed takeoff weight, which is 288.5. So we're good for that. 61 is our temperature. We're below that. And we got a headwind of 150 at 6 knots off of 18 left. So we're good for standard power off of 18 left. Questions?
Nope, that's good.
Then I go ahead and go into my next flow for the first officer. It's takeoff data, update. All the numbers still look good. Airspeed bugs, update. This doesn't show it, but you'd make sure the bugs are good. And of course, that's only on the sim and the 757, or the sim at the Flight Academy. Stab trim set. Looks good at 3.8. Flaps check. That's 15. Radios check. Those are set for takeoff. And then the captain will do her flows.
Takeoff data and bugs. Check. Stab trim. Check. And flaps. Check. Before takeoff, checklist to the line.
Roger that. Before takeoff, checklist to the line, Captain. Takeoff data and bugs.
Checked.
Checked. TR panel.
Checked.
MCP radios.
Checked.
Stab trim.
3.8 units.
Flaps.
Set 15.
Set 15. Auto brakes.
RTO.
Anti-ice.
Off.
To the line.
And then when approaching the number 1 position, the captain will cycle the no smoking sign and check the map and terrain display, and also the minimum takeoff fuel verified.
And my flow is packs as required. There'll be an auto today. Terrain display on this simulator. This isn't quite the way you're going to see it on the aircraft. Usually you'll see it up here. It's going to be right there. And the map display. It's in map.
Below the line.
Roger that, Captain. Below the line. Map display.
Checked. Runway 18 left.
Takeoff PA.
Complete it.
Packs.
Auto.
Lights.
Set.
Before takeoff checklist complete. Now we're just going to skip the takeoff and pretend we landed and do the rest of the flows and checklist after that. After clearing the runway, the captain will call.
Flaps 15. Flaps up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. So I'm going to have the, depending on if there's icing or not, let's just say it's a standard day, I'll go ahead and go flaps all the way up. Engine anti-ice switches, as required, they'd be off today. Flight director, off. Auto brakes, selector to off. Terrain display, off. Weather radar, there'd be a test function right down here. You press that, and then you turn the weather radar off. Stab trim 4 units. ILS park, it is parked. And after engine cool down and 2 engine taxi no longer required. The captain could call for a shutdown of one of the engines, but we're not going to do that today.
The captain will pull the speed brake lever down. And turn off the exterior lights. These would have been on. So those will be turned off, flight director switch off, and weather radar off.
As we're pulling into the gate, I'll clear right.
Clear left.
Go ahead and turn the transponder to standby. Captain, of course, will turn off all her lights.
Start the APU.
Then when we're parked at the gate, the captain will go through her shutdown flow. And she'll show you that now.
With parking brake set, turn off seatbelt selector. And APU has been established. And hydraulic panel set, fuel pump switches off, anti-ice switches are already off, right anti-collision light off, ICAS check, and IRUs checked and off, and AML completed.
Then I'll go through my flow once the captain tells me to shut down the engines.
Go ahead, shut down the engines.
And I would have made sure the APU was on and the isolation switches were on as I came in. Fuel control cut off. Fuel control switches cut off. Emergency lights off. Window heat window heat off. This is a little backwards, this sim. Cargo heat off. Pack selectors. We're going to say we're going to shut down the entire aircraft, so we're going to go ahead and turn those off. ICAS check. IRUs check. I'll bring this up, go to index, and this doesn't show it, but there'll be a maintenance function right here, and you can check the IRUs and make sure they're at the appropriate level. And if they are, you'll just tell the captain the IRUs are checked on the bottom. And then she can go up and turn off her IRUs at that point. And I'd send the post-flight report.
Shutdown checklist.
Park brake,
Set.
seatbelt selector,
Off.
electrical,
On APU.
isolation switches,
On.
fuel control switches,
Cut off.
anti-collision lights,
Off.
hydraulic panel,
Off.
emergency lights,
Off.
fuel pumps,
Off.
anti-ice,
Off.
window heat,
Off.
767 cargo heat,
Off.
packs,
Auto.
I turned them off.
Oh, off.
ICUS,
Checked.
IRUs,
Checked off.
stab trim,
4 units.
weather radar,
Off and test.
transponder,
Standby.
arrival report,
Sent.
AML,
Complete it.
shutdown checklist complete. Do you mind if I do the securing checklist, Captain? This is a silent checklist, the securing checklist, but I'm going to go ahead and read it out loud. APU or external power, off. Battery switch, off. You'll notice I have left the standby power to auto. That's how we're doing it now. And post-flight inspection as required if I have an asterisk at the destination. Thanks for watching.